Hey guys, welcome to another session of RBTL, or Reading Between the Lines. We're gonna go through this bigger patch this week. I have been absent from making videos just because I have not enough time, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about for this. Let's go through this really quick. There's a lot of check-in events happening at the same time in parallel. I do believe that it is to deal with, like, you know, we're currently in a lull in Epic 7. The season's about to pick up. Epic 7 obviously wants to continue the flow of newer players coming in or even returning players. I think really these things are driven for returning players, but if you're watching this, you're always on the fence of like actually playing Epic 7, then you know, there's no better time than any time that they redo these kind of check-in events. I'm gonna scroll to the top here. This is a big piece. We'll break this down obviously into my usual chunks and portions, and I'll mostly talk about stuff that I care about. Okay, so again, coming from a perspective of a player who's played since the beginning of the game, pretty much, like week 1 of the game, I'll only be touching upon like kind of newer things. So first things first is the hero balance adjustment. Later on we'll talk about it, but RTA seemingly is removing the Soul Weaver Frenzy, which is great, but they're adding it to the mages, which is then kind of like in retrospect, like they had planned top model Luluka's buff to be aligned with the like Soul Weaver Frenzy change in World Arena. I'm not a big fan of this decision. I just think that they shouldn't be playing around with the speed, and if they had wanted to play with some new mechanics in World Arena Frenzy, they should have done it on preseason, but not in the regular season. Just in case they can't fix it, then, you know, players just have to grind through that, like, teeth grinding kind of, you know, just tough through it. I know that in the previous season, the Soul Weaver Frenzy was actually no one's friend. Oh, I mean, you could say it is, but everyone that I know was just like, you know what, just get rid of it. I don't know how I feel about mages, one having access to Toggle's Ancient Book, which is one of the most broken artifacts or broken mechanics Smilegate had. That's why they had to create Bellion. But the very fact is that now mages are going to be faster, and we have, like, again, like I said, top model Luluka, we have Oxlots that could be coming back into the mix. You know, people took advantage of Amelia non-attack skill being a Soul Weaver, made her really fast, but now mages can do that, and they have book. Come on, Smilegate, come on. It's just ridiculous. I think it's just ridiculous. I don't know if they want each season to be memorable, you know? Like, one season was the Golden Boys, right? And then the other season was like, you know, people would start remembering, say, oh, that was the Mage Frenzy season. That was the, you know, that was the season where I realized I needed all the speed gear I could get, you know, like, you know, stuff like that. Like, if that's what they're doing, all right, by all means, go ahead, right? But again, it's just, I personally feel that I guess in a way, it's kind of artificially forcing the meta to shift. I know I'm kind of going off topic to what's on screen, so maybe let's just talk about this, okay? So I did my thoughts on the balance patch. Nothing has changed, including Hua Young's nerf. Nothing has changed, so I probably won't spend too much time here specifically on this. I think Remnant Violet is going to be a lot stronger. His weaknesses are more or less the same, but he doesn't have the same weakness. So in terms of counters or heroes that have like counter toward him, toward top model Luluka, hasn't really changed. Now with top model Luluka's new Frenzy change, I do believe that that changes my opinion on top model Luluka's buff specifically. She's just going to be very, very, very strong. That's just my opinion. She's going to be faster than ML Charles, but still using a non-attack skill to technically boost the team. So she's still going to suffer versus Politis, versus Celine. But players can play around that quite easily now, either pre-banning or having a way to deal with those two, like to shut them down, right? So we got Lua, we got Green Sid that could do certain things to them, all that kind of stuff. Pirate Captain Flan, as noted in my previous video, along with Bad Cat Armin, is that, you know, it feels that if they don't have any way to be aggressive or put into an aggressive comp, they have to be a cancerous crowd control dealer. So like Senya, Archdemon Shadow in the previous season. We do have that specialty change ROL to sort of deal with Senya, and she's pretty effective at it. I mean, I played a couple rounds of World Arena in the preseason. But it's just like, is that enough, right? And is that the formula that they realized? Okay, for a standard hero to be effective, they either gotta one shot, so like a Runka, like Hua Yang when she was before, or they have to have crazy like crowd control, Solitaria also being one of them. Vildred's buff, I didn't have to say anything. I was just like, that's ridiculous. Like, he's a insanely good speed imprint. In the right comp, he was insanely strong, but everything of his is getting a damage increase. That is how they thought that he needed a buff. While there's a lot of heroes that need actual buffs, like for example, Ice Says has not, I don't think he's ever seen a buff at all. But his kit, yet currently still stands as, if he's usable for PvP, it's just that he's not at the moment, right? Unless you got some crazy style and crazy gear. Zahhak's buff is one of my favorites. It was such a simple buff, but such a strong one. I did read one of my YouTube comments on the patch notes saying that he's basically Amelia without the healer. But it's true, right? Because he could dispel 2 debuffs just like Amelia. He could push, although not like not the exact same like CR amount, but it's still really good, right? So and he can attack buff with the EE, but realistically it's like to set himself up too, increasing combat readiness for the ally, attack buffing, and then he gets another turn, and then he and then he can S3. And so like it could pair well with a lot of heroes right now. Someone was theory crafting that like technically Zahhak could injure down, let's say an A Ravi, and then force like a Strays, right, with his S2, force the Strays to one-shot someone else instead of A Ravi. So instead of like let's say if, for example, C-Armin and A Ravi in the same team together, A Ravi has the highest HP, Strays would naturally go for her, but through mitigation and all that stuff, you might not get the one-shot on that A Ravi, right? So like with a C-Armin or something like that, or in a FCC. But if you can do Zahhak S2 buff Strays, he gets an extra turn, S3 cut down A Ravi, then the highest HP wouldn't be A Ravi, it would be like maybe the Knight, and then Strays just one shots, and then blah 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 blah. There's a lot of interplay that comes with Zahhak, and so I think his buff was, again, not really necessary, but it was a very, very good buff. It's a really, really good buff, and CR boost is still honestly like kind of eye-rolling, because like everything with CR boost is massively OP, right? Like it's very, very good because it negates speed in a sense, right? So like, oh, if you can't have speed, let's just give you a CR boost on this hero. Or, you know, Zahhak being a very low gear requirement hero or stat requirement hero, you can make him like 280, 290 if you have the gear, make him a pusher and a damage dealer at the same time. Wowza. Man, and then Hua Yang's nerf. So I was looking at this, I'm like, okay, after I saw Arunka's kit, okay, so if you're here for Arunka's thoughts, I'm gonna make a separate initial thoughts video on her for sure, as I usually do. Now, I will, you know, lay out the kind of the summarized version, is that I do feel, and I will repeat this in the Runka video, you can quote me on that, but I do believe that they nerfed Hua Yang because Arunka's kit was designed. So for those of you who want like a slight glimpse into a dev plan or a dev cycle, for sure for a live game like this, they would have had Arunka's core design in terms of the kit like already made. I would say like at least in a month, like a month in advance. So in terms of like, they have a rough idea of what the meta looks like, they designed the kit accordingly, and then before release or even sometimes after release, they will, you know, be on hold. As we saw like with the Edward buff, like they were literally ready to buff him, which is pretty crazy still. But they basically can tune that hero before fully releasing. Okay, so we've seen that before with like Cerise, we've seen that before with Alencia. These heroes, before they were released, there were slight modifications to them, even post-release. So you know, like a rough dev cycle in terms of their plans. So now this is what I'm thinking, right? So when I looked at Arunka's kit, I'm like, okay, yeah, it has similarities to Hua Yang. Let me be fair in just saying that it's not a copy of Hua Yang. They do different things, the mechanics are slightly different, but I don't think I'm crazy in saying that they look very similar. And the very fact that like the attack passive from Hwayoung and then a non-critting aspect of it, it was like it's exactly the same as Arunka. She gets damage mitigation while Arunka gets some like passive CR boost with the barrier and all that stuff. Like there's like a different play style for Arunka for sure. Even pre-Hwayoung, so pre-nerf Hwayoung, there's a different play style for sure. But it definitely feels to be the case that like, oh, if we have to sell Arunka, we have to nerf Hwayoung. And so here's where I, you know, obviously this is a bit of speculation, but here's where I'm kind of like a bit ticked off, right? It's like they were like, oh, we wanted to make her balanced because our heirs were struggling with Hwayoung, but that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case for anyone. In terms of feedback, it's like Hwayoung was like, okay, so there was two sides to Hwayoung's current kit. It was that one, it's 8 months past her release. So in the portion where she was released at the end of that current RTA season, yeah, she was cancer because a lot of people didn't know what to do. A lot of people had to play tank down, and they can't because Hwayoung can one shot. But now it's been 8 months. Multiple heroes have been released and buffed, and frenzy changes have been added in order that Hwayoung is not as dominant. Now, I do believe that the nerf is required, especially with Arunka's release, but why I'm ticked off is that the reasoning behind Hwayoung's nerf definitely doesn't seem to be as genuine as it was. So before, like I said, they said that, oh, she was unbalanced, so they wanted to reduce her balance, make her less like OP. And then, you know, there's a side of the E7 community already was like, what? She's good, but she's not like, she's kind of like a necessary evil, right? She's kind of like the almost like a APOC versus Hwayoung was always going to be like a 50-50 when it's like a 1v1. It depends. It depends on the build. It depends on gear diff. But it's like she's kind of a necessary evil, and then they nerfed her. It's like, oh, she's too strong. But then now everybody's like, okay, well, what about the Senya? What about the ADS? What about A-Ravi? Are they gonna nerf them too? They didn't, but then Ruka's kit comes out, and you're just like, okay, I can kind of see why they had to do it, because if Arunka has her current kit and Hwayoung remained unnerfed, you can definitely see the appeal to be like, huh, I'm gonna skip Arunka because Hwayoung does almost what she does, like maybe minus the extinction, but she has 100% defense pen, doubling the damage, blah 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 blah. She is just much stronger than Arunka, right? So you can kind of see Arunka's kit being like, it's like that because Hwayoung is nerfed. So it's almost like you have two sort of Hwayoung, but that could do different things. So now it makes it more valuable to keep both, or, you know, for you to pull Arunka, of course, to keep both, but for different things. But they relatively do, let's just say for now, they relatively do the same damage. So you see why I'm kind of like disappointed? It just feels that way. I just feel Arunka is a cool character. I'm not even a furry, all right? But Arunka is pretty sexy, okay? She's got those like athletic thighs, and you guys all know Jagan loves me chicken drumstick thighs. All right? I'm just kidding. Anyways, my point being is that like I feel Arunka's kit's boring, right? In comparison to what we have, it's basically you get the nerfed Hwayoung. Alright, and even in their video demo, they used Yubiri's Tooth, right? So I was gonna say like, oh hey, my Yubiri's Tooth is not gonna be used anymore because Hwayoung's nerfed, maybe she's not, her best in slot is not Yubiri's. Arunka now can use it too. So it's kind of like, that's what I feel. Anyways, Backyard Armin, gonna be pretty toxic, I'm gonna tell you right now. Jenna, I said before, it was like most likely gonna be with the a new specialty change. Alabastron, I am half on that buff I said before, and then Chatty gonna be pretty disgusting. However, the thing with Chatty and the protection set, so the new set that gives barrier, both of them could be like, oh, this makes Opsig and DJB very, very good. However, you never know when you're queuing up into someone, you never know whether they're on protection set or Chatty. So on the off chance that you don't have anyone to deal with barriers like Opsig and DJB, these artifacts and even the protection itself will be pretty strong. Okay, so let's talk about that. Hero recall for Hwayoung, like I was just, you know, complaining about. There's a lot of stuff in here. I did try to see about the slate, and I don't think they were talking about, at least in this patch note. I kind of read it, tried to make sure, but maybe I'm wrong. If I missed it, leave it in the comments down below. But the slates, if you used unknown slate, like arena unknown slates, can you still get them back if you contact customer service? Question mark. Because my Huayang has 3 arena slates in her. Ideally, I would get that back, but if I can't, I guess I don't mind. It would be better if it was arena slate, so I could give it to a ML5, but yeah, so I don't know if Slate of Fate only work. It looks like it's just Huayang, right? So I'm pretty sure it's still the same thing, like you can contact customer service, but anyways, but I don't think it says it here. I wish that they would have just addressed it just in case. Now, for those of you who might be looking at other videos and even here for myself on opinion on which 5-star should I get then if Huayang is nerfed, I personally think I'm gonna recall Hua, but I'm not gonna exchange for anything. The only one I'm missing is someone that I don't think I can get anyway, which is Sharoon. But that's just myself. However, if you are a player that is missing a lot of RGB, there is something that you could probably consider is that keep the Huayang, wait for people to test it to see whether or not she is worth actually changing out. So the very fact is that if you're an aggressive player, anyone that can one-shot or is an option to one-shot is always going to be good, right? So if Huayang can still one-shot heroes, especially those who have anti-crit elements built into them, so like Senya for example, or you know, heroes that you know need to bypass crit, so like you know ML Celine or something like that, Huayang is always going to be good. It's just that she won't be as good as she was, at least that's just my opinion. But if she is there for one-shotting, I think that you should keep her just in case. And that goes the same with me thinking about Arunka as well. It's like, you know, she has extinction, she has an anti-crit element, Robbie can't revive the target that she kills, blah blah blah. But anyways, more thoughts on Arunka when I get to that video. Labyrinth system revamp. I'm gonna skip forward here a bit. I mean, we can all be excited about the, you know, kind of new rewards or the refresh of the rewards, especially for the raids that we have to redo. But I want to talk about the normal raid, which will be closed. Okay, so based on this, is that it will no longer be reset and changed. You only be cleared once. So once you kill it, it's like pretty much over. The main equipment change will be up to 80, no longer require those coronation souvenir or the malicious bug charms, because again I believe that this is going to be closed, and then the souvenir, the logistic officer will be gone as well. So after like them giving you enough time to buy out the shop or whatever with all your currency, realistically what we're gonna have now is gonna be Hell Raid, so once a month reset, which is good. Once a month reset, and then after you beat the Hell Raid, which they'll now call normal, so here normal, so just in case like the language gets confusing, the Hell Raid now will be called their normal, and then the nightmare difficulty will be available. There's a lot of new gear, right? So first time killing bosses, just like when we did for Hell Raid, they're gonna be set equipment. They all look pretty good. All right, we've seen some of the preview of the substats. But the other thing is that the logistic officer in the actual is changes to the items sold, right? So you're gonna, looks like the so yeah, the rage set necklace is gonna be changed, but that's good. So now there's gonna be a lot of pieces I think contesting for our currency, and I definitely think that the addition of these two items is insanely valuable. All right, so to note, what we had before was the speed set sword and then the immunity chest. I think for years to come, it will definitely be a purchase of the necklace and the ring. Now this, like, both of them are insanely good, especially if you roll the right stats, right? Of course pending rolling the right stats, but it's still insanely good. Just knowing how my pieces rolled relatively in terms of the spread, like if you have the pen set neck, for example, and you roll high, that thing is like easily like your A Robbie's gonna get upgrade, your like Alencia is gonna get upgrades. Even your pure damage dealer is gonna get upgrades. You can't really go wrong with that, right? So the effect resistance piece as well, on an ER set, it has been for a while now that ER has really come back, right? So like that piece could be like useful for Destina, you know, just skip the effectiveness. It could be useful for all these degen heroes that are built now. If you don't roll all speed, you can roll you can put that onto your Angel of Light, into your Politis, into all these heroes. So I definitely think that because it's also right side gear, that's what gives it more value. So the first thing everyone should be getting now should most likely be one of these two pieces, depending on what your account needs. But both of them synergize with their set, which is great, and then the main stat, and then the substats. The only substats I would say that the effect resistance ring like doesn't have is that obviously the effectiveness is often seen as a can I use the term bipolar? Like a bipolar stat. Often seen, I would say, but has relatively been accepted as a decent combo. Especially with our what do you call it, ancient inheritance gear as well. A lot of it has like effectiveness and effect resist, and a lot of people use them on those degen heroes that I was just talking about. So I definitely think that, you know, both of them are gonna have super insane value. I myself, I'm gonna start picking up the crit damage next more often, just because like I struggle more with like damage based main stats instead of like support based main stats. Damage based main stats, generally you want to roll higher anyway, so basically buying more necklaces gives you more chance of rolling high pieces of gear, which is going to really help your account accelerate, whereas support gear has a lower threshold in terms of how much stats it needs to be good. So that's why the ring will definitely be lower value. So I think that the crit damage neck will definitely be the main pickup, but either one of these two will definitely be higher value than the sword in the chest for now. So the stuff about the malicious bug charms, because you're not able to actually hunt the normal anymore, it's just purchasable in the shop now, and it says up to 10 times a month. So you're most likely, because you're not running regular raids anymore, you're most likely going to be just using the labyrinth compasses after you complete all your labyrinth, you know, all the new labyrinth stuff. Once you complete all this, you're gonna most likely just be buying the malicious bug charms throughout your weeks as you're waiting for the month to reset, which is great because Epic 7, like I had been complaining for like almost 2 years how boring it is to have to run regular raid, and because I'm a min-max player, I definitely run all my regular raids. I've never missed it. But now that it's actually gone, there might be a hole in my heart, but I'm pretty sure I can fill that time with doing other stuff. Anyways, let's go with the new system, the background battling system. This has been talked about. We have wanted this for a long time. They have delivered. This is before the new year, which is fantastic. It's actually just, you know, we have a month before the new year comes, but long story short, you can auto battle now. All the settings will be pretty much the same as before. You can imagine what the auto battling system is. I don't even know if I should be talking about all the details that are pertaining to here. New UI to display what's actually going on. There is a note in here I probably should know, is that if you run out of energy and you're, you know, not allowing to refresh, it actually deducts your energy to a negative point, so you're passively regaining those energy back. You understand what I mean? So if somehow you are farming manually, but then you have your auto background battling going on, and your energy, you run out of leaf, you run out of skystone or whatever, and your energy is like, you know, 20 for one hunt, 20 for another hunt, and you're like minus 20, basically the auto recharge function will basically just, you have to wait for that auto recharge, right? You can't do anything until all that energy is made up. So you're waiting for the negative 20 energy to go to 0, and then 0 to 20 before you get your other energy. So that's just something you should note. So you can't really exploit it, but it's kind of self-explanatory. I don't even think you really needed to note that. The UI looks pretty good. I don't have any issue with that. Stuff about limitations on when you're in Ancient Inheritance, you can't view this. That's kind of like no-brainers to me. I don't need to know that, but it is very nice to have. Let's talk about the new equipment set and the Unity set improvements. So protection set is the barrier set. It isn't gonna be. It's gonna be in the golem hunt. So like, does this make it very, very good value to hunt golem? I'm not quite sure. I mean, HP sets, defense sets, and then now with the protection set, these are going to be incentives to maybe look at golem. A lot of top players have already considered golem as one of their hunts that they do, you know, maybe on the side or whatnot. With the barrier set, I definitely think, or the protection set rather, I definitely think that's pretty good. It's a 4-piece set, so you can't stack it, right? But it's up to 12% barrier on the max health. So people are already saying like this would be the best in slot for Eaton, and I definitely do agree. So you can imagine like Eaton on Adamant Shield with the, like, you know, really high end Aureus with a 12% barrier with his max HP. He's just like a better FCC, but like a more idle FCC. So in terms of a damage sponge, he's gonna be like the best. So like, just for Eaton himself even, I think it's almost worth like trying to farm a protection set. However, we do know that you can always convert, right? Once you get the essences, you can always convert it. So there is a slight possibility that you don't even need to hunt it too much. But once you convert the gear, maybe that's worth it. I think protection set is nice to have. Maybe 1 or 2 full sets would be great. If it is based on the max HP of the caster in terms of the holder of the protection set, then obviously we're looking at heroes that have a higher HP pool. But it's not out of the question for heroes that have kind of like a meme kind of use, can still use it, right? So that's the danger of protection set, is that imagine you're queuing up into RTA, some meme dude chooses to use protection set on like a ML Celine with, I don't know, like 12,000 HP, right? It's not a lot of barrier, but like that's definitely enough, one, to keep herself from dying in 2 hits. But the other thing would be like she has some kind of like meme potential. So that's just an idea, right? It's just, I'm mainly saying that if you have a couple sets of protection set, I can definitely see that your anti-cleave roster is going to be much stronger, right? So the thing is, like, again, if someone's trying to try to cleave you, they don't know what hero of yours has protection set. It could very well be Green Armin, right? Because Green Armin can function without counter set, can function without really any other set, right? So like, Green Armin can sit back with Elber's Ritual Sword, have the passive counter if you hit her. And then she can run protection set. So it's just like, protection set right now, I think, is incentive enough for even me to look into golem. And in hoping, of course, I pick up on a health set or 2 that is actually useful, or a defense set even. Torrent set now, on the other hand, in my opinion, is going to be very, very good. It is a 2-piece set. I don't know if it says here if it can be stackable, but I think people were guessing it's stackable. All right. Now, whether it is or not could change the viability of it, but regardless, it is a very, very strong set. 2-piece set means that you could run anyone with, you know, pen with torrent, or just speed with torrent, you know, any of your combos with a torrent set. If it is a stackable set, that's even crazier, because some slower, more passive damage dealers like a LQC or something like that, just as an example, can run double torrent set with a pen set, or a double torrent set with immunity set, or a torrent set with a pen set with immunity set, stuff like that. And it could be very, very good, right? Because LQC can use Hull Cutter, doesn't really need that much crit rate. So decrease the health by 10%, that is the quote unquote balance for this set. But when attacking, increases the damage dealt by 10%. Now there has been some comments that has been floating around since these sets were kind of previewed. This is not attack temp by 10%. This is damage dealt by 10%. Now, damage dealt has always been kind of like the ending multiplier to your like overall damage. So the damage dealt, this would be multiplied on top of your crit damage. It would not be necessarily just crit damage, right? So in terms of like, this could be used on the new Arunka coming. This could be used on Huayang. It increase all sorts of damage. It can increase defense scaling damage, speed scaling damage, health scaling damage, although not, you know, recommended, since you do lower your health to compensate for the damage. but you know, depends on the health scaling. If the health scaling is not super high, it's a hybrid scaling, let's say it's health and damage, and you don't need that hero specifically for really high health, then Torrent Set can also be really good. Either way, Torrent Set, because it's in the Katie's hunt, I would definitely think that Katie's is going to be one of the most hunted hunts for quite a while. Now, some people are still building their Alencias on injury and still getting the right pieces of injury, so that gives you even higher value or higher incentive to hunt Katie's, because you're still going for pen set, you're going for Torrent Set. Revenge set, if you have a really strong couple revenge sets, yeah, it's like a speed set with, like, you know, some mechanics in it, so realistically it's still usable. It's just, yeah. So Katie's, I think, is going to be higher value. Golem, questionable value depending on your playstyle, but I think enough for me to even look into it. I won't be talking about this kind of stuff. Arky's growth guide thing, this is like kind of normal, alright? So this is kind of like what you would expect in Epic 7 after 4 years. For newer players, it's going to be really good because you guys get to catch up really quick. For returning players, this is going to be good, or an incentive. For players that have never left the game, obviously this is good. We always want more rewards. Side story, Blood and Roses. Who cares? We're gonna skip this. I don't give a crap. Alright, so custom group summon, let me address this really quick. If you are new, I think custom group summon is going to be better value for you over Arunka right now. But if you are someone like me who wants to pull for Arunka because waifu, but she's not limited, keep that in mind, I think this is a much more valuable banner. Now, as most players saw, with the rangers getting buffed, like a ton of rangers could use guiding light. Right now, this Cerise, I'm using my mouse, so you can't see it, but you can see my little cat rubbing his mouse. The Cerise banner or couple is really high value right now. Okay, very high value right now. DN, very solid. Sort of fell off. DJB's dominance is too great. That DN is not like super high pick rate at the moment. Not all this stuff can really change. That's the really scary part. So Cerise Guiding Light is insanely good value right now. Not Cerise herself, but Guiding Light. F10 artifact also pretty good. If you already have a max one for your Archdemon Shadow, honestly, she's the only meta hero that will want that always best in slot. Some other mages notable could use the F10 already, not so much is a necessity. So like for example Solitary and all that, don't really need it. And there's a lot of other heroes, of course, if you missed, you can get. So I don't know what I want this time around. I kind of want more Selene. So green Selene for ML Selene imprints and the artifact. Maybe Fire Hand guy. I'm not quite sure. With the Mage Frenzy thing, which still upsets me by the way. With the Mage Frenzy thing, maybe that's worth it for me. I don't know, but definitely Cerise. Hoping to get some Guiding Lights. I need extra copies. We really need to spread those out. That artifact is so good. It's too good right now. Let's see here. Anything else I want to talk about? I mean, you can see the story stuff. I don't know if I want to mention that. Expedition boss rotations changing. This new Halloween side story actually had an interesting video. If you didn't watch it yet, it's not preview here unfortunately, but if you didn't watch it yet, I would definitely watch it. It's like another one of those like cartoon clips where we just be like, hey, Epic 7 anime when? You know, like it was actually really well done. The art is really good in that one as well. I definitely check it out. I think there was like a hero, if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of previewed at the end. I don't know who that is. Maybe I'll do a video on that. I don't know. It's so short though. I probably won't do an animation breakdown video for it. Some UI changes, nice additions. Not gonna talk about that too much. There's another thing I wanted to talk about here. Yeah, okay, so here we go. So this, all right, so this is kind of nested at the end of this. I mean, there's another stove page that talks about this, I think, in a bit more light, but I definitely think that I would just address it here. So the frenzy changes, nothing else has changed really. The only thing we're looking at is these two things. Maybe the maximum battle frenzy, it just starts decreasing quicker. All right. However, this, right, so Soul Weaver 7 speed thing getting removed. Now, the 7 speed Soul Weaver buff was, like, it was pretty big. Even if you're not playing like a 300 speed DJB, a 300 speed DN, it was really big because like it made the Destinas, it made the Ruels all function better because their cycling was better. Now the thing was though, it's like most people that I knew was just like, oh, get rid of it, right? It's toxic. I think near the end, if we're talking about the speed contesting Soul Weavers, near the end of the season, like they were less used. Like it was a bit more risky. So for example, like DJB wasn't exactly used because of the high speed he could get to, but it was just because of the utility that he had, and the question mark of when you drafted him is like, oh, is that gonna be fast enough to beat my Steve Lilius or something like that, you know? But like in another sense, it's like that wasn't necessarily needed. Okay, now arguably speaking, since 2 seasons ago when they had the 15 speed frenzy for Soul Weavers, that wasn't really needed. So I don't even know why they had lingered with that 7. Now here is the question, right? The 7 speed increase for the mage, as I mentioned, with the top model Luluka buff, Oxlots might be coming back. I personally think that this is unnecessary. This is just gonna make some passive heroes stronger in terms of mages. So like for example, like Ida or Edda, like depending on what you had her speed at, like just having like a 7 additional is just like insane value, right? If you have a fire hand guy that was like 290 speed, now you're looking at almost a 300 speed contester that can hold toggle the ancient book. You're just looking at like a whole new thing. I'm not even talking about heroes that can get the first turn, but I'm talking about heroes that have access to such powerful tools like book, like Sylvan Sage Vivian on lifesteal set. Now you don't need to chase that extra 7 speed, you just get it, you know? Like heroes that have already abnormally powerful kits accessed with soul burning with Toggo's ancient book, having an additional 7 speed is just completely cancer, right? Like I think if anything, the only class I can think of that could benefit from the speed without being super broken is knights. That's just my opinion, but realistically I think they should just remove it altogether. I'm more disappointed that they didn't take the chance of the preseason time to do anything, and rather just announce this in terms of the I mean, it does say this, right? So it does say that starting from the current preseason, but the thing is like our regular season is going to start soon, right? So that's the other thing. Realistically, they're not taking too much time testing this out, and maybe it's just for the last couple weeks of preseason. Maybe, you know, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, right? Maybe they will change it after they realize this isn't that good. Either way, I don't believe that artificially changing the stats of the heroes per season is gonna be good. Like, just don't give us a ranger one, right? Like, that's already gonna be really cancer. I don't think this is a good idea in general. I think if they wanted to play with anything, you know, play with the, you know, the reduction of healing and stuff like that, like how they have in the past. Yeah, anyways, that's just my thoughts on that. I think that's pretty much it. There's a lot of other UI changes. Yeah, I think that's it for this patch. We had on another note is that the shoe skin based on Phantom's win is in development right now. I'm not a really big fan of that because it's still like, you know, like a kid, but it does look kind of better, I guess. It does look kind of better than the current shoe. I won't preview that here since I wasn't able to find it in time, but I'll leave that for this this episode of Reading Between the Lines. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the balance patch. You know, there's a lot of stuff to go through. The balanced heroes, the new equipment sets. Oh, I forgot to mention actually, the Unity set actually getting a different change. One sec. I forgot to mention that. I was like right before here. Yeah, so Unity set now is a dual attack chance of up to 8%. All right, and this is stackable. All right, at least in the past. Now the other thing is that the basic dual attack chance has been reduced, and this is quite big. So this is why I should mention this. I missed it. It is quite big, right? So from the 5% to the 3%, and the maximum dual attack chance has increased from 20 to 30%. So this stuff definitely does open the doors for Unity sets like value, since you're doubling the value and then also reducing the base, right? So reducing the base means that if you want to dual attack, you're gonna have to do it through this set now, right? Like more or less, okay, more or less. But it probably will be a good change. I think in the long run, if you win a RTA match because of a dual attack, it technically, I think this reduction is great. Also, you have a less likelihood to trigger your opponent's Lionheart Sirmia, so when you don't want to. But let's just face it, realistically, on the battlefields, 5% and 3% will feel about the same. But it's good to know that statistically it's going to be lower, right? But I think it's just more of like when you lose because of a dual attack, you're just gonna be even more pissed off because it's not 5%, it's 3%. Anyways, that's my thoughts on this entire thing. Let me know, like I said again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm gonna end this for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. And as always, thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you guys on the next one.